श्रीभगवानुवाच प्रजहाति यदा कामान् सर्वान् पार्थमनोगतान् आत्मन्येवात्मना तुष्टः स्थितप्रज्ञस्तदोच्यते.
Chapter 2, Shloka 55. The Blessed Lord said, when a man expels all desires from his mind, O Partha, when he is satisfied in the self and by the self, then he is stable in intelligence. What does this shloka mean? Actually, often, very commonly misunderstood. But before we come to the misunderstanding, let us break it down a little. The first question being, what is desire? Desire, which is known as the root cause of misery and derailment on the path. What actually is desire? Particularly on the path of Karma Yoga, where we are not looking at escaping from life and its movements, but embracing all of life. Now one has to live in this world, not just live, but thrive in this world for the sake of the divine. In that context, what does desire mean? The understanding of desire is relatively simplistic. If one's ultimate goal is enlightenment and liberation, moksha, if that is the be-all, end-all of sadhana, then the understanding of desire is relatively simpler. But if there is a stage beyond liberation, that of transformation and divinization of this very earth, then what does the word desire mean? In order to understand the word desire, let us contrast it with the word aspiration. Now let us say you're working. Working is an action. Now some may say that even your action is a desire. You're working because you desire to work. Now how would work look like when it is born out of desire? And how would work look like when it is born out of aspiration? Desire is nothing bad in itself. It's only a degenerated form of the soul's aspiration. Aspiration is the hidden and veiled reason why we are here on earth. All of us in our true essence is the divine. And there is a reason why the divine has come upon earth to manifest divinity as wisdom, as divine love, as divine beauty into this world. So our souls have an aspiration and a will for progress towards evolution of consciousness, towards divinizing matter. The movement of aspiration is that of self-giving towards the divine. On the other hand, the movement of desire is to pull things towards itself. Desire is born out of the ego, aspiration is born out of the soul. Desire seeks to consume and possess things for its own sake. Let us come back to the example of work. Why am I working? Am I working for acknowledgement, for recognition, for status, for money, for my identity that is getting built, for name, for fame, to feed the collective status of the family and the community? What am I working for? It's not the work by itself. You may be a woodcutter, you may be the CEO of an organization. But either way, why are you doing the work that you're doing? What is propelling you into action? Is it some kind of an agenda? Or is it a pure act of service? Even you could be doing something which is traditionally in spirituality seen as unspiritual, let us say marketing or business. But are you doing that with an intention to serve? And serve whom? Serve one's own ego, the ego of the other, or to truly serve the divine? That is the central distinguishing factor, not how things appear to be. It's a question in an average man's mind. Just like in the last shloka, Arjuna was asking, how does the man of settled understanding walk and talk? The walking and talking are only superficial indicators. The real indicators are subjective in character. So the first is that one is not acting out of desire. Two people outwardly, they could be doing the same work. One is doing it out of desire, one is not doing it out of desire. And by the work itself, you may not be able to discern. But energetically, inwardly, there's a huge and a vast difference between the two. To give you an example, to make it a little simpler to understand, a bit more grounded to understand, two organizations are selling pizza, and let us say ethical pizza and healthy pizza with whole wheat base or a millet base. One organization is taking all the money to oneself. The other organization is using that money for the collective good. So even though by the looks of it, two organizations look similar, but when you pay to the latter organization over the former organization, your money, your energy is feeding a very different ecosystem. I'm reminded of an Italian restaurant in Aurobindo. Sometimes we may come and we may feel, isn't it like any other pizza shop? But Dantos gives a huge part of its profits and earnings towards the building of Aurobindo. Of course, it does matter, having characteristics such as a healthy pizza, fair pay in the organization. But even as both the organizations have similar outer looking characteristics, Dantos is completely different. It may not be completely different for the customer, but it's completely different in what it is truly doing and being a part of. Again, I know I am making it exceedingly simplistic, and it's also not to put down other organizations, but it was just to give an example that these things, desire and aspiration, cannot be figured out by how things look like, by the looks of it. One has to go a little deeper. A little or more than a little deeper. It is an entirely subjective thing. Which is what brings me to the second part of the shloka, to be satisfied by the self in the self. And the self is not the ego self. The self is the self in which all of us reside and that which resides in all of us. To be satisfied by the divine and in the divine. Divine may feel like a little bit of a metaphysical terminology, something that we find it a little bit difficult to grasp. But as you come in touch with a sacred sense within you, you begin to realize that everything that is happening in my life, there's a hand of the universe, hand of the universal power at work behind it. On one hand, you begin to realize that there's something very pure, something very conscious behind all of creation and within each one of us and within myself. On the other hand, you begin to recognize that all the circumstances and everything that is happening in life is happening, but somewhere behind it there is a divine will. And when you begin to come in touch with these two aspects of consciousness, the pure consciousness, and the conscious force which is behind all of creation, and you begin to be in touch with that in your own life, being and body, you begin to see and sense and experience all of yourself and all of your life only as an instrument. You do not pursue a job for your own sake. You do not pursue a relationship for your own sake. You do not give birth to children for your own sake. You do not participate in any activity of life for your own sake, but for the sake of this pure consciousness and this conscious force. That is when you begin to be satisfied in the self and by the self. And that is an indicator of being stable in intelligence. Many times, people who are emotional feel that, am I not, capable of developing equanimity and equality? Am I not eligible to be stable in intelligence? Absolutely untrue. Indifference is not equanimity. The inability to embrace the emotions is not equanimity. And the way for people who are emotional to embrace equanimity is through the path of love. And even the ones who embrace equality and equanimity through the path of knowledge ultimately have to embrace emotions, ultimately have to open themselves to the ocean of love. So don't think just because you're emotional that you're incapable of equanimity or that stability in intelligence that Bhagavad Gita talks about. In fact, you're all the more capable. Yes, emotions do color perception. But at the same time, if one is able to contain the emotion, it leads to a higher and a deeper understanding of life and a richer and a diviner love. But for that love, the love that one finds in oneself, through oneself, the divine love, the self-ignited love that's there in each thing and in each being, one has to be in touch with that. So if you're emotional, you're still eligible for developing that equanimity, that stability and intelligence. In fact, that possibility is greater because you can really open your emotions to the divine and be satisfied in the self, by the self. And it is a big misunderstanding that someone who's a little bit distant to the world of emotions is more equanimous or more capable of equanimity. There's nothing like that. Okay, with that, we come to a closure of this video. Share in the comments box what touched you about this shloka and what we spoke in the last many minutes. And I shall see you in the next video. Hope you found the video to be useful. If you would like to continue your journey with us, if you would like to help us support you in your journey, click on the link below and join us for a 2.5-hour signature masterclass called the Awakening Karma Yogi Workshop, where we run you through the fundamental stages of awakening to become a Karma Yogi, to be peaceful inside and successful outside. We talk about Swabhava, our true nature, and Swadharma, our soul's purpose, which are the building blocks of a life affirming, not a life negating spirituality. So if you found this video to be useful, click on the link below and I shall see you at the workshop.